Delta Force just did the unexpected and released a full campaign game for free called Black Hawk Down. So today we're going to go over what's great about the game, what I think needs to be improved, and by the end of the video, you'll have a better idea on if this game is for you. Now I know I've been pretty anti-realism here on the channel when it comes to Call of Duty, and I mostly get upset about the realism when it comes to gameplay in Call of Duty, specifically because it's always been a run and gun arcade shooter. Bringing gameplay mechanics that are realistic into Call of Duty makes no f***ing sense. If I hear one more room temperature IQ person say, "But bro, it's realistic," about Call of Duty, I'm gonna have an aneurysm. The amount of brain cells that I've lost interacting with the general Call of Duty player base over on Twitter is insane. But when it comes to games designed from the ground up with realism in mind, like Black Hawk Down, now that's a different story. We finally have a gritty, realistic campaign that doesn't hold your hand. This game is hard. It reminds me of old school shooter games from the 2000s. When I was a kid, my dad actually built a PC and we had one of those like desk stations that were popular back in the day. Leave a comment if you know what I'm talking about, if you guys had one of those at your house. He even put in some RGB fans, which as a kid, I thought was the coolest thing ever. I actually used to play RuneScape and some racing games because my dad used to race cars, so we had the full Momo steering wheel and pedals set up for those racing games. Now, back then, this was really new and about as close as you could get to a racing simulator at home. Anyway, I used to play a game called Conflict Desert Storm with my dad, one of the OG shooter games on PC where you would go into missions with your teammates, Bradley, Foley, Connors, and Jones, and take out scuds, rescue civilians, things like that. And as much as I wish I could play that game again, I purchased it on Steam and it just doesn't work. But now I don't have to try and play a 22-year-old game because Black Hawk Down gives me the same feeling military shooters from the 2000s did. It's dark, it's gritty, and it doesn't care about your feelings. Not forcing diversity, not changing the names or skin color of the enemies to avoid pissing off the wrong group of people. This is the game we imagine we'd be playing in 2025. I hate that everything has to be compared to Call of Duty, but I'm going to commit the same cardinal sin here because it just explains the point so well. Playing Black Hawk Down feels like what Call of Duty Forgot campaigns were supposed to be like. Don't get me wrong, I love the action-packed cinematic campaigns that we usually get from the Call of Duty series, but I feel like Treyarch is the last development studio that understands players don't just want a fully fictitious storyline. A lot of fans really appreciate when a campaign dives into real-world events and touches on things that actually happened. And what the Black Ops series does so well is put a twist on those real-world events, diving into the concept of what would happen if a world event ended differently, or even going full-on conspiracy like we saw with Perseus in Black Ops Cold War. But what used to be great about shooter games from the 2000s is they often just told the story of historical battles and gave you the opportunity to play through those battles, not shying away from the horrors of war. Black Hawk Down puts you right in the setting and reminds you that war isn't all fun and games. It's actually really dark, and a lot of people really sacrifice their life for their country, and I really liked how much the game leans into the more realistic aspects of combat. Now, I made the mistake of playing through the missions solo, and when you go to launch a mission by yourself, it literally gives you a warning that it's challenging and asks you if you're sure you want to proceed by yourself. Initially, when I saw this, I was like, how hard can it be? And I can definitely say this game is no joke. As much as I typically prefer arcade-style FPS games, after playing so much Black Ops 6 and Apex Legends, I've been looking for a game that's just a change of pace. So I was really happy to be able to dive into a more grounded and serious combat in Black Hawk Down. Maybe I'm just getting old, but I enjoyed the tension of knowing that I had to be more thoughtful, especially as a solo player when you're supposed to have a team of 4 people. One wrong move and I wasted ammo, meds, or I flat out just died. You have to sweep every room, clear every corner, and you absolutely cannot run in guns up. Honestly, it feels safer in a building than it does on the street. Imagine this. You clear your first building, you've taken no damage, you have plenty of reserve heals, you've wasted very little ammo, setting yourself up for a perfect run. But you forgot to check one rooftop and all of a sudden an RPG or sniper takes you out. And when I said this game doesn't hold your hand, I wasn't kidding. There are no checkpoints during the missions, so if you die, you gotta start all over again. As frustrating as this was for me playing it on stream, truth be told, I think I was just a little hungry. I really do like the challenge. I'm sure someone watching is gonna make fun of me in the comments for saying this, but it's kind of like the Dark Souls of first-person shooter games. Okay, maybe not quite that grueling. One thing they really nailed in this game is the theme and the art style of this game. Every detail, down to the voice actors, is just so well executed that it lets you get immersed in the mission. It feels like you're playing your part in the movie. When it comes to entertainment, there's a concept called suspended belief, where you throw out your preconceived ideas or assumptions about reality in order to buy into the story that's being told. But Black Hawk Down tells the story so well, and it leans so much into the realistic military theme that you really don't feel like you have to suspend any belief. You get immersed in the game right away. I would actually really like to see one of those videos from military veterans reacting to or playing through one of these missions, because I'd love to get their input and have them point out what's correct, what is true, what is real, and what's accurate versus what's just pure gameplay. Alright, I've spent the entire first half of the video praising the game, but we gotta talk about what I think they should change or fix. I promised you the full rundown in the intro, so let's get into it. What could be improved? Well, first, it would be nice to have a dedicated solo mode. At the moment, you have to go into co-op and enable the lobby password so people can't just join your session, but I'd also like to see a dedicated solo mode so that they could scale the difficulty, as well as make gameplay adjustments that only make sense in solo. Like being able to control your squad by giving them commands or pinging locations that you want them to go to. Because this game is meant to be played with a full 4 stack of people, you're missing out on teammates that can actually fill all 4 roles: assault, sniper, support, and medic. So having a dedicated solo mode that gives you the option to pick up meds, ammo, or other resources from your AI teammates would be great. I'd also like to see a more in-depth healing system like what we have in the Delta Force Operations Extraction mode. As it stands now, the Black Hawk Down campaign gives you a 3-stage health system: red for severely injured, yellow for somewhat injured, and green for full health. Also, randomly, you'll take damage. Could be your first bullet, you could be on yellow health, you could be on red health, and it just randomly, you'll have a severe injury like a broken bone, and it will slow your movement speed to a crawl, which is fine, not a complaint. Again, I like that they're leaning into the realistic aspects of combat, but at the very least, I think it would be for the best for them to separate player health and skeletal or bodily injuries. And what's confusing is that, again, we already have that system in the extraction mode, so it should just be an easy thing to integrate. I understand why they tried to simplify the healing system, because you can't have an entire list of healing items and debuff options that all have different application times and healing speeds, and it's just way too complicated, and it's going to go over a lot of people's heads, and not everybody wants that level of, depth in their campaign. That would probably be just way too much, but I think they could add in a little more complexity and challenge, because in my opinion, they've simplified the healing and health systems a little bit too much. So in an ideal world, it would be nice to have one heal for your overall player health, and then one type of debuff that repairs your, organ damage or broken bones. For a game that leans into realism, there's one thing that I think artificially makes the game more difficult, and that's lack of ammo. I understand that they want you to feel the pressure to be conservative with your ammo. You can't just spray and pray, which is fine, but the fact that I can't pick up weapons off of enemies that I've already killed or get ammo from them feels weird. Obviously, in real life, you would be able to do that. I think a fair trade-off here might be to make it something where you have to interact with the body and search for a few seconds to be able to grab a weapon, ammo, or possibly even bandages, just like in the extraction mode. This way, you add a little more realism and flexibility to the gameplay, but it's not something you can just, run over and pick up easily. It has to be thoughtful, and you have to clear a room or a building so that you're safe to spend the time searching the body for those resources. I think this would strike the right balance between realism, challenge, and fun gameplay. Now, Delta Force is a free-to-play live service game, and that means they actually have the option on the table to add future campaign missions or side missions as DLC. I think that would be really cool, because we haven't seen a game like this create campaign DLC that expands or continues the story. What would be even crazier is the possibility of an entirely different game built with the sandbox and assets and core gameplay mechanics they've already created. I hate to be that guy and bring this up, but it's entirely possible that we see a battle royale from Delta Force in the future. There's a good chance they're already building one as we speak, and if Verdansk returns, but it doesn't save Warzone, there's a good chance they jump on that opportunity, and I hope they do, because Call of Duty needs a wake-up call. They need some competition, and right now, Delta Force is already winning over Battlefield and Tarkov fans. Call of Duty might be next on the chopping block. If you liked that video and you want to watch another one, click here.